Hello and welcome to this episode of Self-Made. I'm your host, Dee Brown, CEO. Joining me today is a former NFL running back and the CEO of MB5 Sports Group. Please help me welcome Mel B to Self-Made. Mel, welcome to the program.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm excited.
Man, I'm excited to have you on. You have an interesting story, so I'm going to jump right in. I want to start at your childhood. Tell me about where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
I'm born and raised in Liberty City, Florida, which is Miami, and part of the area of Liberty City is where we had one of the name of a riot. The McDuffie riot that had happened. One of the very first riots in Miami. So I'm right in the inner city, and also attended Miami Northwestern Senior High School, which is a predominantly black high school, which produced a lot of NFL talent, like several guys like Teddy Bridgewater and Amari Cooper right now, and playing for Cleveland Browns, was a former Cowboy. So
in your community, what was the community like? What challenges did you face as a kid?
Well, one of the things that the city is so big, and everybody visit Miami thinks South Beach is what is Miami, but it's not. That's across the bridge. We didn't frequent South Beach, because back then there was a lot of racism that was going on. So a lot of the locals we didn't really go over, but a lot of people that come to visit back then in the 80s wanted to go, hey, let's go to South Beach. We look at them kind of strange, like, we really don't do that. Yeah. They look at me like, why? Like I said, you had some complications back then, and still a few things now, but it has gotten a lot better. But as a whole, the inner city, it has its poverty, but it has some great features as far as camaraderie, but people really care. And that's where, as a competitor in the sports, where my desire, my drive, and me not being able to quit, and no matter what I do, I feel like I'm at the top, and I'm going to give 110% because I just have that confidence, that swag that comes from Liberty City.
Now, you were a running back in college, and you played a few years in the NFL. Where did you develop your love of football, or when did you develop it?
Well, actually, in my dad's in the projects, it's called where my uncle was he's a drill sergeant. He actually took me at the age of 8 and threw me in some pads. We had a league called it was a project league, and I was a youngin' playing against grown guys. So he threw me in there running back, and just like, look, you get out here, just shut up and stop crying. So he would toss me the ball. I run fast as I can to the sideline and then try to outrun everybody. Yeah. And so that's where I guess the toughness of the mindset came, because I was playing with guys at 15, 16 years old at the age of 8 and 9. So the mindset of competitors came early in the projects in that project league that we had.
So talk about high school. You played football in high school, am I correct?
Yes, sir. Miami Northwestern.
So tell me about your high school and your high school football career.
Well, it started at the Northwest Boys Club is where I started playing as well. Also after that stint with the project lead. So I ended up going to convince my mom I begged her, matter of fact, to take me over to Northwest Boys Club to play. And I didn't realize that, what I was doing was so exceptional. I was just having fun. And as I started Northwest Boys Club, I'm a young kid, running around in 8th grade, and I see these two grown men approaching me with gold shirts on, says Miami Northwestern. And they asked one kid, where's Melvin Bratton? So the kids pointed at the areas right there. So I'm all nervous, like, who are these, grown men? That's when the recruiting process started. And Coach Roger Coffey, Coach Ford, who are in heaven right now, they came to me at that young age and said, listen, we hear that you was the best running back in the city of Miami at this age. We want to get you at Miami Northwestern as a 9th grader to come in and go and play varsity behind a guy named George Busta Rhymes, not the rapper, but he played at Oklahoma. And George was getting ready to go to school, and he said, we need to fill that position. we feel you're the next guy up to be the franchise for our high school team.
So during that those high school years, talk about some games that stand out to you and what your overall performance was like, and how that propelled you to college.
Well, one of the things, I also ran track. So I was state champion in the hurdles. I won the state champion in 120 highs my sophomore year and my junior year. And I didn't realize what I was doing. I had a state record in triple jump at 49.8. It held for about 10 years. So, but I grew up running track as well. But I was a big back. I was 6'1" and weighing at 210 pounds, 10-15, in high school. So I excelled and had, the speed, and to see a guy that big, everybody was really shocked to see a big back like that made a move and to run hurdles.
Yeah.
So that mindset again came from our high schools. We have several top schools. You have Miami Central, Miami Northwestern, Miami Edison, also Carol City. Those are rivalries. All of them were within a 10-minute drive of each other. So the talent was so thick to the point where each school could win a state championship at any given time. So that's where the competitive spirit came. And after winning state championships, I got recruited very highly. I was a 5-star kid that came out of the city of Miami, throughout the state of Florida, throughout the country. I was rated number 3 in the state. And so the scholarships came. I actually had more track scholarships than I did football, but I hated track. I did it to stay out of football in the spring, but I excelled. So all the track offers was coming in, and coaches would want to come talk to me. I look at them and shake my head. They said, "What's wrong?" I said, "You're wasting your time. I'm not running track no more after I leave this high school. So football is my thing, and that's where I plan to put my energy in."
So tell me how you ended up at Miami, the University of Miami.
Well, University of Miami, great question. Actually, I didn't want to go to Miami. That was not even a choice, because University of Miami back then was terrible. All right, I didn't know anything about the program. I'm 15, 20 minutes from the campus and still didn't follow it. I was watching one of my high school games on a repeat. We played on Friday nights, but they would show the games on Sunday. There's a famous coach named Bob Kaufman, who was a great basketball coach, and he knew I'd be watching the game. So he made the comment. He said, "Somebody better tell Melvin Bratton that the University of Miami are graduating 3 of the seniors running backs. He can come in and be an instant starter." So I'm like, he knew I'd be watching the game. So that kind of piqued my interest. I already took trips to University of Michigan, University of Pittsburgh, Ohio State, Texas A&M sent a private plane to pick me up. Here I am, a high school inner city kid, never rode a PJ before, and picked me up in Miami in the airport and flew me to College Station, which was a great experience. And my last trip was supposed to be to Southern Cal, but I canceled it because I didn't want to go to the West Coast. So I had put all my trips in 1 month. So I decided to stay home and take a visit. But as I looked around, me and my college roommate, Alonzo Highsmith, who's now back at the University of Miami now as a general manager of football, we was on the phone, and he played at a rival high school. And I said, "Hi, I said, man, I'm thinking something a little different." He said, "What?" He said, what you thinking?" And we were on the phone late night about 1 in the morning. I said, "Man, you know what? Let's stay home and change the culture of Miami football." He said, "You know what? I was thinking this thing." I said, "Man, forget all this Ohio State, Go Blue, Michigan, and all these top not schools. But, I said, let's just create and we spoke that into existence, not knowing as a teenager, saying that you speaking that to existence. We ended up signing. We recruited a bigger class. We had Jerome Brown, one of the kids that, he passed, played for the Philadelphia Eagles in the Ring of Fame. And we recruited these kids, all of us. So we stayed, that class of 1983. It changed the culture, not only the city of Miami, but it changed the University of Miami football. They credit Alonzo Highsmith and Melvin Bratton as the pioneers that kicked that program out. And we won our first national championship that year coming in our freshman year.
Wow. So talk to me about, some of the games. Give me some highlights from your college career.
Well, my best coming out party, I was redshirted to let you know how competitive we are. My college roommate is my best friend. He played running back, fullback as well, Alonzo Highsmith. And I got redshirted. I was pissed off that, how you get on the field before me. But when I started playing the second year, and we sit in the room, and me and my 2 other roommates, I told him, I said, "Listen, I said, if you get hurt, you might as well transfer because you'll never play again. Because once I get in the game, it's over. So that's the mindset that we had and how competitive we were as far as on that team.
Yeah.
And that's why the U became the U, because our swagger, our mindset is a whole lot different. So I ended up starting my very first game, and you're probably familiar with this game. It's called the Hail Flutie game. That's when Doug Flutie had threw the Hail Mary. If people don't, he overshadowed my touchdowns. I had 4 touchdowns, 100 receiving, 100 rushing in that game. And I thought that, I said, listen, all the media, what came to me after I scored the last touchdown with the last few seconds left,
yeah.
I said, no. I said, no. I said, I don't want to talk right now, because I seen Doug Flutie do this a week before and launched a pass like that as well and won the game. So I knew his capabilities. Sure enough, the Hail Flutie was birthed and born, and Melvin Bratton got some press with nobody knows that kid, that young freshman kid, redshirt freshman kid, had the game of his life.
Wow. So you go on to play your senior year, and that's when, I guess sort of a tragedy occurred. Talk to us about your senior year and ultimately playing in the Rose Bowl.
Well, yeah, it was the Orange Bowl, the
Orange
national
Bowl.
championship, versus Oklahoma. And one of the things that the competitive spirit, I stood in front of my team. I was a team captain for 2 years. I told them, and I meant this, I said, if you have to give any part of your body to win this national championship tonight, do it. And I spoke it. And I had the first opening touchdown. It was a pass for like 40-some yards to kick the game off. And I had one of my best games, nine receptions in that game as well. But in the fourth quarter, I ended up, we were up, saying about a couple of touchdowns, but Jimmy Johnson was kind of nervous and wanted to put the starters back in. So I went back in, and that was a play where instead of me going out of bounds, I tried to plant it, cut back across the grain to score another touchdown. And the guy behind me had pulled me, and that's when my knee total just popped. I heard it pop. And before that game, I was on Good Morning America with Brian Gumbel, and I went to on the television. They had an Oklahoma player, Dante was a linebacker. They had me. He came in a sweatsuit. I had on a tie, dressed sharp like you. So I got my suit and tie on as a college kid. So Brian Gumbel said, well, Mr. Bratton, you're pretty sharp. It's 6 a.m. Where are you going? Why, you're pretty sharp. I told him, looked right in his face. I said, listen, this is a business game for me. So after this game right here, it's all business. So yeah. I'm preparing myself for the next step. And that's when I did it. But when that happened, one thing I can say that I had, and God blessed me with, is to have a degree. So when I was on that ground in tears, and I knew that, saying that my knee had done, it was done. But I had a degree. But one of the things that I spoke that into existence, if you see the 30 for 30 U documentary part 1, I said I would give anything to win this championship, and I did. If I had to do it over again, I'd do the same again because I wanted to win that championship.
So, but you ultimately you began to rehab your knee, right? And you fell in the draft. So talk about that process and going to the NFL, getting drafted the first time.
Yeah, so you did your homework and your due diligence. Yeah, so I got drafted twice, and that's very rare. But one of the things, how I became an agent, and this is how it sparked me. I actually told my agent at the time, his name was Robert Fraley. He got killed in a plane crash at Payne Stewart back in the days, the golfer. And Robert was my agent. But when I blew my knee out, my hometown team drafted me to Miami Dolphins. And I told him I was blessed to have an insurance policy with the Lords of London for $1 million. So I had that tax-free sitting. And back then, the base salary for the NFL was $75,000. So I had $1 million tax-free sitting to the right. And then with a knee injury, which I could have went on and started my life and got in business. I have a degree in business management. So I had, leverage in a sense like that because I was going to start my life off at least with a meal ticket. But the sport, if I couldn't just walk away from the game. So I rehabbed for that whole entire year. I got drafted. The Dolphins drafted me, my hometown team, Don Shula, God bless his soul. And me and him had many battles because I fired a shot on the front page of the paper, the Miami Herald. After he drafted me, I said, okay, I'm glad the Dolphins got me in the 6th round, but I want first round money. But I'm listening to my two roommates in the back while I'm talking to the reporter.
Yeah.
And being young, I blurted out something, and then now they took it and ran. And that was the whole thing. Like, this kid is basically on crutches, and he's screaming that he wants first round money. So I didn't end up signing. If you don't sign with that team, a contract, you go back into next year's draft. So I went through the scrutiny for 2 years, 2 drafts. Wow. I went back in, and they drafted Sammy Smith, the running back out of Florida State. And I went back in the draft pool. And I got drafted a round later from the Denver Broncos. So Dan Reeves, who's, in heaven as well, he gave me a shot on life twice. He drafted me as an injured player. I ended up starting the Super Bowl as a rookie. Me and Bobby Humphrey, a 2-rookie tandem has never been done, started the Super Bowl against the 49ers. We got beat to sleep 55-10. But, coming out that tunnel, it meant so much to me. It was worth $1 million to get my name called as a starter in the Super Bowl in New Orleans, come out that Superdome. Yeah. I wouldn't trade that for the world. I mean, money could buy that feeling that people told me that I would never play again. I never walk straight again. And I'll be, just never get an opportunity. So I forfeited $1 million. And that's when I started negotiations. I told my agent, I said, listen, tell Lords of London, get me to the 3rd regular season game to make the roster. Once I make the roster, I forfeit the $1 million. So we rewrote the policy. So he said, how did you come up with that? I was like, well, I mean, I don't just want to take their money, but I also want to play. I want to make sure I'm secure on the team. Yeah. And I made the roster inactive, and I got 2 years in. And I thought the same mentally, but physically, technology wasn't where it is today. And it took me a while to try to get back, and I never regained that player I was.
Did that affect you, mentally or emotionally, having to give the game up that you love so much?
Very much so. And us as minorities, we have a hard time saying being depressed or, psychological, warfare within. Yeah. I went through it. I went through it mentally, and I was depressed. I didn't watch football for a year. And it's just a lot of things mentally. But I didn't see a therapist or anything like that because, that macho-ness and that brandness, it was like, I don't need that. But me and my mom went through it. I mean, and it taught me values till today because I've heard the story. I've heard people whispering, even guys, I would go out at a nightclub, whatever, I'm on crutches. It would tell the girls, oh, he broke now. He's a regular dude, like that. And he's no longer, that guy. So I heard those things. So it put in my mind. So now, now I'm being on my own sports agency. I vow to God, like, I don't care if you're a first round pick or last round pick, I treat you the same. Because I saw me being a star today, going tomorrow, but back again and again. So it taught me, adversity taught me how to fight, which I'm a fighter regardless. But that whole mindset of depressed spirit that I had, a lot of kids go through that. But, I was strong enough to have, family around me and prayer warriors that kept me afloat.
Now, you mentioned that you own a sports agency, MB5 Sports Group. What inspired you to start this agency?
Well, when I started negotiating my own deal with my agent at the time, and Robert, I was sitting at lunch, and I was telling him, I said, listen, let's market to the teams that have grass fields, because back then they didn't have field turf. They had the regular carpet they put on top of the concrete. And I was telling him, I said, let's have a private workout. Let's invite these 8 teams at a time. I know San Fran, Miami, whatever, invite them to a private workout. And once they see me 100%, let's start negotiating. So he looked at me, he said, well, he said, where you learn this from? I'm like, I just, that's just me. Yeah. He said, well, don't you ever become an agent. You're going to put me out of business. You can't tell the minority kid from Liberty City what not to do. Right. So right then it triggered me. I was like, bruh, I'm looking at you like, really? So now it inspired me to really, really go. So when I started playing with the Broncos, I made business cards. I gave John Elway one of my first business cards. I said, John, I'll do your next contract deal for the low. Here it is. Give me a call. And everybody in the locker room was laughing, but I was dead serious. Yeah. Saying that I really want to pursue this. So I saw my vision, the life after him. So once I stopped after 2 years, I thought the same mentally, but physically I wasn't that guy. I wanted to stay attached to the game, and that was my intro to do that. And I also became a scout because Dan Reeves, who drafted me, gave me a chance on life twice. He got the job at the Atlanta Falcons as a head coach. I reached out to him, say, Coach, look, I do this. I know the players. I research, I study, and I evaluate. So he brought me in, we met. He said, well, I have a position open. You got to move to the Northwest. So here's a kid from Liberty City, Florida, on the bottom on South Florida,
Right.
moving way to Seattle on the Northwest. Never been out there. But it taught me a lot culture-wise to be able to go, those markets of Billings, Montana, Bozeman, and then Billings, just all over Washington,
Yep.
the state, so Boise, Idaho. So I got a chance to really see a different world of culture, and it taught me how other people live and so just a different culture. So it was a great experience. And also to the talent, I was rejecting everybody when I was evaluating because I'm comparing everybody to guys who I played with. So my director at the time, he called me and said, Mel, you can't reject everybody that you see. These kids are not on the level in the Southeast region. I said, well, Coach, I just got a hard time. This dude can't play dead in the Western. I'm like, hey, how you want me to take him to give him a draftable grade? He said, these guys are going to play at the next level. So I learned to evaluate, and it brought me to where I am right now as an agent.
So what do you find most rewarding about being a sports agent?
Well, right now, I've been in the game 20 years. The list of guys that I've personally touched, what made me go get licensed and certified, I worked for an agency, and they used me had me as a high price runner, basically. And I was doing it because I still had a contract with the Washington Redskins. I got terminated when Norv Turner got fired. Marty Schottenheimer came in. So, but I still was around the game. So the group that recruited me years ago asked me to come be a part of the agency. So, but I wasn't licensed. So I went the first year. I signed a kid named Erasmus James out of Wisconsin, first round pick. This happened in 2 months. I got started with them like late September, and I had a kid named Michael Boley, went 5th round out of Southern Miss, went to the Falcons. I won in the 5th round, and I never did it before. And I look up like, okay, I could do this. So they came at me, and they gave me like $2,500 a month. And they paid for my travel. But I had a security, with the 1 year left of my contract. I go around and I said, man, I'm pretty good at this. I like this. So they bumped me up to $5,000 a month, which is $60K for the year. And I went to going. I came back with a kid named Vernon Davis, who played at the University of Maryland, went, stands to the 49ers, the 6th pick. And the same draft, I had Lawrence Maroney, 1st round pick out of the University of Minnesota, went to the Patriots. And then I said, listen, I started seeing the numbers of the money. I'm like, wait a minute, this ain't adding up right. The 3 other partners that sit at home, here I am dominating out here. So I didn't say anything. I come back. I said, I ended up signing Jamarcus Russell, the 1st pick of the draft at LSU. I had Dwayne Bowe, 1st round pick, his receiver, LSU, with the Kansas City. And I had Sidney Rice, 2nd round pick, top of the 2nd. So I said, this is enough. So I went to them and said, listen, I want to be a partner in this agency. Look, what y'all had before me, I don't deserve anything going forward, but I brought to the table, I want 25%. They laughed at me. I said, okay. And when you're not on a contract, you basically get screwed because you have no leverage in a sense like that. So I learned like, okay, financially, I'm making $60,000. Jamarcus' contract is over $60 million. Do the math. So I was like, you know what? I tell you what, I went and buckled down, got certified, and then that's when I started my own agency. But right now, this is not a job for me. When it becomes a job, I'm getting out. This is a passion. I love to see the young men, black, white, whatever color, go from zero to being millionaires overnight and being part of the birth of these young men. I fired some guys before, and they don't listen because I made mistakes myself. I've been broke before. I made financial decisions wrong. And I didn't have the support team around me or nobody to tell me the truth. Everybody kiss you behind when you get to the top. So I'm just a realist and I shoot straight from the hip. If you can't deal with that, you're not my type of client. And all money, good money for me.
Well, I would say this, Mel, it seemed like you are living in your purpose. And I can tell that you are making a difference in a lot of people's lives, and of course, finding in the sports industry, finding good agents who are honest and trustworthy and have the best interests of the player at heart is something that's a very high priced commodity. So I applaud you for all that you're doing. Just to close the show out, in about 30 seconds, could you tell me what you would like for your legacy to be?
Well, just as a stand-up person, what you just spoke, if you don't want the truth, don't come ask me, period. My family, even my fiance, anybody. I mean, you come ask me a question about how you think my hair look. No, you need to go get your wig tightened up, but I'm just I'm just one of those guys. I'm a jokester as well. I'm a prankster. And Deion Sanders are real close friends. I just spoke to him yesterday and told him I was doing your show, and he told me good luck. But one of the things that just the camaraderie that I'm a man of my word, and that's all I have. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a billionaire yet, you know what I'm saying? But I stand on my word and my bond.
Mel, I hate to cut you off, but we're out of time for the show. Man, it has been a great interview. We didn't have enough time, but I appreciate you joining me. And to my viewers, thank you for watching this episode of Self-Made with Dee Brown, CEO. And remember, without you, there's no me.